Let's look at some of the basics of Section 501c3 that apply to an organization that intends to be exempt under that section of the Internal Revenue Code. Now, in most cases, a nonprofit that's been formed under state law will not be automatically exempt from federal taxes, income taxes, and will have to go through the process of applying for tax exemption, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. In order to be eligible for tax exemption under Section 501c3, an entity needs to be organized and operated exclusively for one or more of the purposes that are listed in Section 501c3. Those include charitable, religious, educational, scientific, testing for public safety, literary, fostering national or international amateur sports competition, or prevention of cruelty to children or animals. And the most common of these categories that we see is definitely charitable, religious, and educational, the first three that are listed here. But 501c3 organizations can be organized for these other purposes as well. Now, in order to qualify as exempt under Section 501c3, an organization has to meet two tests that are referred to as the organizational test and the operational test. Under the organizational test, a nonprofit must be organized exclusively for one or more of the exempt purposes as set forth in its governing documents. And that means the exempt purposes under Section 501c3 that I just listed. So that means that the reason for forming the organization needs to be to operate, exclusively for furthering one of those exempt purposes. And it's not enough that the organization is organized for some exempt purposes and for some non-exempt purposes. And as I mentioned, the Articles of Incorporation and other organizing document should specifically state the organization's exempt purposes. Now, the operational test is a little bit more flexible in that it requires the organization to be operated primarily, as opposed to exclusively, for one or more exempt purposes. That means an organization can engage in some non-exempt purposes without jeopardizing its exempt status, but those non-exempt activities can only be an insubstantial part of its overall activities. And unfortunately, we don't have a clear definition of insubstantial. So it's hard to know exactly how many unrelated activities an organization can engage in without jeopardizing its exempt status. A big area that this can come up in, and which we'll talk about a little bit later on, is in the context of unrelated business income activities.